Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Death Scenes and Cemeteries. I'm your host, Raymond Newsom, with my very special guest host, Renee Cody, and
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
we are so happy to be back.
Yes, absolutely.
Last week was a situation and a half. Um, for anyone that doesn't know, I had a bunch of snow dumped on me, followed by ice, and then some more snow. And I got snowed out of my house. I did not have my laptop. I did not have any clothes with me at all. Um,
Sounds like you weren't prepared.
no, because within 30 minutes, it went from, oh, look, it's barely snowing to, oh, holy shit.
Snowmageddon.
Not really snowmageddon. It's just nobody was expecting the snow that we actually got,
Yeah,
because
that's
it
true.
says snow all the time. And,
Yeah.
oh, there we go.
I
And
mean,
then
you
it
guys get
doesn't
more
really.
ice anyway.
Most time it misses us and just hits the mountains there in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And this time it did not. It wasn't actually a lot. It was just the type of snow it was. It was very wet and it stuck very quickly and made the roads extremely slick.
Yeah.
Um, there were multiple cars in the ditches. I almost got stuck in between a bunch of cars that were either going to come off a hill at me or taking hit me
Ooh.
in the ass end and stuff. And I had a panic
Oof.
attack at one point. I was
Mm.
part pulled old. I backed into somebody's driveway at one point when I got detoured from the main road because there was a car each ditch and had to wait until everybody cleared out before I could even bring myself to take and push forward and get out of the spot where I was at before I got stuck there. So my car sat at a dollar store for 2 days, and then it sat at work for another 2 to 3 days before I was finally able to really have my car back. I was walking to work and everything else, which
Yeah.
sucked.
I'm sure it did.
So yeah, we were in a situation to where I could not exactly be live. And Renee was like, "That's fine. I'm tired." So um,
Yeah.
we took the week off.
Um,
I Since I didn't do this show, I didn't do the mentally disturbed show either because it was just only right. I wasn't going to take a jump back too soon and not get to enjoy this show first.
of course.
Yep. Mental health by the mentally disturbed is just something that came along that I was doing with Mr. Barron. He's been busy with other things anyway, and that's why the last episode I did by myself. We'll see if he gets to join me Friday because I have scheduled a new episode. If not, you'll see me by myself again, and I'll be talking to myself like always.
Or I'll be in the chat. At least I'll be in the chat. So we'll be talking. We'll see.
Maybe.
Anyway.
So, anyway, we
It's
did.
it's like you become it's like look at you. You become a different person when you put your glasses on like somebody
Oh,
else.
holy shit!
Wow.
I'm Superman. Um, Damn it, Raymond looks smart again. What the hell? Uh,
Oh, I
so, what
had
have you
to. I'm
done with
sorry.
your week off there, Renee?
Um, we the kiddo had to go to Boy Scout training this weekend. This past week and the weekend before. So, um, we did that. Just kind of vegged out and recharged after the holidays and stuff too. It was a little
Nice.
hectic, And then going back to school was kind of it always happens, the big reset with everybody.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's always one of those things where it's like, oh no, my sleeping in is over. Which it's not like I have experience with that because all my classes are online. But for other people,
Exactly.
for
For
other
other people
people,
and littles that I teach. So therefore, they've been off for like I was a week and call it 3 4 days. So in my opinion, we went back on a and it was weird. We went back on a Thursday, so we were only there for really 2 days. So it took us a while to get us reset. We're still in the reset mode. It takes about a three, almost depends on my class. Sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's a month to get back to the swing of things before we left. And I
I
don't blame them
mean,
because I want them to
yeah,
go
no,
home and chill out, be kids, and not have to think about things and just have fun.
I don't want to have to deal with it either, so I get it. Um,
Yep.
of course, my kids were out all last week. Gabby was still out as of today. She goes back tomorrow on a 2 hour delay. Michael is out till possibly Wednesday. We'll see for sure Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not they cancel his class. I get to work regardless, so it doesn't make any difference to me.
Exactly.
Michael's been on what they call NTI days here, so non traditional instruction. It's all done over the internet, so it's basically kind of like remote learning like they did back during COVID. Um,
Yep.
that way, his days still count, and that's fewer days that he has to go before graduation. And I know,
Exactly.
even though he doesn't like the idea of being stuck at the house doing it, he'd rather have the teacher right there. Um,
Yep.
at least at that point and stuff, he won't be graduating too far past the date that he planned on being out.
Exactly. Yeah, because we get out as of right now. If we have nothing, we get out June 10th. So
Well,
nothing is worse than when like after the first five, you have to slap it on to the end.
we don't even get that in the state of Kentucky.
Oh, what?
Yeah, they do
Oh,
not allow snow days in the state of Kentucky. It does not
oh,
exist. So every day that is missed has to be made up.
wow.
And they took a teacher development day in February from Ashland, which is the school that my daughter goes to. That way, that's one less day that they had to make up, but they still had to make up all of last week.
Oh, see, and like that's where I go. They should just do it. There is no more like even if you have a snow day, because we all did it during COVID. Like they should just let you teach at home. I don't know. I'm a proponent of that, and the kids can get out when they're supposed to and go be kids. God damn it,
I mean,
have fun.
1, 2 snow days, I understand. At least give them that day to actually go out and play in the snow and enjoy
Yeah.
the snow instead of being stuck in the house doing homework all day. Because I understand. But yeah, if you have the opportunity and stuff, might as well give some of those days to them being able to complete homework and do complete classwork. That way, they're not falling that far behind in the school year.
Exactly. But enough about that.
Yeah, enough about that. We do have a topic tonight. We
Yeah, we
we do
do.
have a discussion for everybody, and tonight we decide. Well, actually, we decided last night because I was like, "Hey, do we have a topic yet?" I don't think so. Bundy? Bundy. Okay. We're back, Al. Um,
Exactly.
Love
Everybody's
and marriage.
favorite.
No, 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 I'm joking. Not that Bundy. Not that Bundy.
No, not Alan Pegg.
We're talking
Not
about
Alan Pegg.
Theodore Robert, also
Theodore Robert.
better known as Ted.
All right. So, if most people don't know, his actual name is Theodore Robert Cowell, born November 24th, 1946, to his mother, Eleanor, in Burlington, Vermont. So, up my way, of course. Of course. Um, Now, this is where it gets a little dicey. Right out the gate, this poor guy. Um, his biological father, if you do get to pull up his birth certificate, which I have in the past to look at for certain reasons, um, it did have a name attached to it. Hi, Susan. Um, and so they did have his father listed as Lloyd Marshall, who was a United States Air Force veteran and also a graduate from Penn State. But then it's redacted and taken away, and there's none. So that's where they're at. But there's a lot of mystery around who his father is. There's hearsay, there's proof, there's no proof, depending upon who you want to believe. Um, so there's that with that. And he was born, this I did not know, he was born at Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers. So we're talking 1946. Eleanor comes home to mommy and daddy, not married, and bun in the oven,
And they ship
which
her
is,
off.
and they
That was a
ship her
big no.
off.
That was a big
You
no
know,
no.
that's a big no no. Um, you know, and to save face for her, but in actuality, it's to save their face because what is Teddy Boy known as? Grandma and Grandpa are, in his eyes, are his mother and his father, and his mother is his sister.
And I'm my own grandpa.
That's exactly. Um, so that's where it gets a little dicey with a lot of details. The first years of his life, he lived with in Roxborough neighborhood in Philadelphia with his maternal grandparents, um, Samuel and Eleanor. The couple raised him as like I said, as their son to avoid the social stigma accompanied with being born outside of wedlock. Get it? It's that time period. All right. Um, I mean, and this went so deep as the whole family. I mean, family, friends, even like I said, Ted. That we're told his grandparents were his parents, and his mother was his older sister. That's a pretty deep lie to keep up
It
with,
sure is.
and for when he finds out for a serious long time too. Um, so he didn't find out about his true parentage until 1969. That's a long time. Um, so, like I said, and actually, he was the one who found that out. He went to Vermont and pulled his birth certificate and found out. So it
Yeah.
wasn't even like his mom told him, or his grandma, or grandpa, or aunts, uncle, cousins. He
His
found out
adoptive
from a town
father,
clerk. Yep, his adopted father, everything. Um, at, things are a little, so he's holding a resentment for a really long time, and I mean theoretically, want to say lifelong resentment towards his mother for never telling him about who his real father was, or for leaving him to find out the truth. Which I could understand that why you'd be a little upset. I get
yeah.
it. Um, As this is going on, Bundy starts exhibiting some disturbing behaviors at a young age. So Lois's younger sister Julia, and I remember, and I get this picture in my mind of like it's almost kind of like the Joker scene from um oh my goodness,
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad, right, where he's
Yes.
laying out in the middle,
Yep.
right, got all the knives around him. So his little sister's down for a nap. I And she wakes up to find herself surrounded by knives from the kitchen and her 3-year-old nephew standing by the bed smiling. And then I get that creepy like Jack Nicholson smile movie, like that smile, like I could see that. Yeah. Like that's what I get in my head. Um
Don't worry, I've got you on the creepy smile. Um,
exactly. So in some but in some interviews Bundy has spoken but he spoke very warmly and Anne Rule, and those that don't know who Anne Rule is, she's a very crime author. We want to label her as that, which we'll get back to in a minute. How she associates with Ted.
yeah.
Um, so he always spoke very warmly of his grandparents. He identified with them. He respected them. He clung, quote unquote, clung to his grandfather Samuel. Why wouldn't he? It's the only father figure he's got.
The first few years of his life that was dead. So,
Exactly.
thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
there's an
Keith.
otter's bird. Thank you so much, sir. Uh, but then see, like this is where it flips. See, and some other family members will come back and they'll say um, that Samuel wasn't a nice guy.
No.
Some say that he was a bully who beat his wife. He swung at neighborhood cats by their tails. That's like I wow. Um, was reportedly, threw down Julia down a flight of stairs for her oversleeping. This I caught was interesting because of what Ted would say later on that was in him, the dark presence that was in him, and reminded me of somebody else's dad. He would he would sometimes speak loud, unseen presences in his vicinity. So he'd be having conversations with something. This is Samuel. This is Grandpa.
Yep.
Um, and then was once he flew into a fit of rage when the question when the question of Bundy's paternity was raised, because there's always been a theory that his father is actually his grandfather.
I'm my own uncle.
Yep. So
See how the story's
so
changing here? And the song?
exactly. Um, but Bundy always did. He described his grandmother as a timid, obedient woman who would periodically underwent electroshock therapy for depression and feared to leave their house towards the end of her life. So she became agoraphobic.
Yep.
Um,
I do
but
miss
then,
the old treatments. Please shock me. Just right here.
open up
Sorry.
wide.
Charge me
See,
up,
but
hooray, for another day.
like so, and then as Bundy gets caught, and of course, then they're going and talking to his family and his grandparents. Then his grandparents are questioned. And some of the locals remember Grandpa Samuel being a fine man, and we're like, oh my goodness, he was violent. We've never seen him violent. He was a good man to his wife and to his kids. And the characterization that he was a raging alcoholic and an animal abuser was just a convenient way to justify Ted's
Delusion.
outburst, change,
Delusion.
delusion. So, um, and even, I mean, even, let's see, Audrey Cowell stated that the mother wouldn't leave the home because she suffered a stroke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, to
There's
me,
conflicting stories all the way around. So
exactly, which kind of follows Ted, because, I mean, think about, that's, we don't know. We weren't in those houses. We weren't in that childhood friend with him to see how, oh, like, oh, look, but what's behind closed doors is different than outside closed doors, you know? So then there's just this strange thing that happens in 1950. Louise changes her name from Cowell to Nelson. And at the urging of multiple family members, she leaves Philadelphia, and she leaves Ted now with somebody else, with cousins Alan and Jane Scott, that live in where? Topeka, Washington. So now we're what? We're getting dumped off again, which, I mean, isn't fair as a child either. There's a lot of abandonment issues now going.
yeah, but at that time, it was easier for her to dump him off somewhere else until she found a husband.
Exactly, till she found his husband, which that's when she finds, in 1951, she finds Johnny Culpepper. I had to put his middle name. I thought that was great. Johnny Culpepper Bundy, who's a hospital cook at an adult singles night at the Tacoma's First Methodist Church.
I wonder if he liked to use salt too.
Maybe, maybe.
Sorry, the intrusive thoughts are winning tonight. Actually, I'd apologize, but I'm not sorry.
No,
So,
you're never exactly. And there's a really nice picture of him. If you actually Google his name, um, he's a Navy man. It's a really nice picture. He's a really nice guy. He marries her and officially adopts
Ted
Teddy to be his own. So Ted's name now is Ted
Bundy.
Robert Bundy, the Ted that we all know and love.
And the great thing about the naval picture is he's holding shakers. You know, I'd assume it's salt and pepper.
No,
Might be
but
wrong. I'm
no, but
joking.
that would be great. I mean, I would. I've never really looked. That's pretty my bad to see if he ever had a nickname, because I would have named him Salt just because of that.
I'd call
I
him
would.
salt and pepper for sure.
So now, as a good adopted, you know, adopted dad is, he tries to include him. You know, him and Lois, they go out and they have 4 kids of their own. But and he tries so hard to include Teddy in everything. But he pretty much, what does he say? And this is like amazing. So Bundy remained at a distance from him because he was not liking it. Buddy would later complain to a girlfriend that Johnny was not his real, quote unquote, was not his real father, wasn't very bright, and didn't make a lot of money. So we're
Yeah,
starting to see some tendencies pop up here. Um, and then Bundy would always recall about his time in Tomoka. Um,
Topeka,
he would
Tomoka.
he would he would describe roaming his neighborhood, picking through trash barrels in search of pornographic material. One of his attorneys, Polly Nelson, she said that he would pursue detective magazines and crime novels that involved sexual violence, particularly when the stories were illustrated with pictures of dead, maimed women. So, um,
I mean,
but then
necrophilia is a thing for a lot of people. It doesn't do much for me.
I
You
hope
know,
not.
I like it when people can move. For the most part.
So, so you like your bodies warm, is what you're saying?
And animated. That's where the shock therapy comes in. I'm joking.
Exactly.
Good night.
Um,
This is our last show. Um,
exactly. It's and here we are. Yeah, yeah. Bundy's gonna do us. Um. So, but
cool.
years later, when he is writing to his pen pal and Rule, um, he said that he never, ever, ever, ever read any of those kind of magazines, and he would shudder at the thought that anyone would. So here we go with this yo-yo effect that has been following him his whole life. Um, the
Always keep them
but what he
guessing.
did agree, but what he did agree with was that he would consume large quantities of alcohol and canvass the community late at night in search of windows. So he became a peeping Tom. I mean,
Tiptoe through the toilet.
the tulips. um, so, and then that's where he would start. So that, and not only that, then he started mimicking accents of politicians that he would hear on the radio, and then he would start fantasizing that he was somebody else and somebody quote unquote important. um, but like we said before, now here we go, here's a neighbor in the neighborhood. She says Sammy Holt said described him as a bully and a mean-spirited kid, which you look at him and I'm like, you know,
I get
especially the
that.
baby pictures, because there are a couple baby pictures that have been released in the last 50 years. um, and that he would he liked to be in charge, and he liked to inflict pain and suffering and fear, and that you would hear screams from the kids all over the neighborhood,
Coming from the woods, yes.
coming from the woods, because he would drag them into woods. That's what I'm going to say. You may want to go look that up yourselves if anybody's interested. um
He was big on animal cruelty, especially toward
oh yeah,
cats.
I mean he made a punjai trap, and one of the little girls, she got almost caught up in the trap. I mean, she had a bad, gaping gash on her leg, but I mean, he's making traps, booby traps.
These are what people used to call tiger traps. So
Yep.
what it was sharpened spears in a hole that was covered up with like straw or something loose to cover it just enough to where people wouldn't think about it, and when they would start running it, they would just drop. Of course, he didn't dig them as deep as what
Oh.
the actual traps usually were. So yeah, usually the most you get was like tore up legs or real serious injuries to the
Mm-hmm.
backs or whichever way you fell, things like that.
Yep.
But yeah, so having those all over the place and stuff for kids to randomly fall into just to kind
Yeah.
of torture them.
Mm-hmm. Which, so I mean, and then, some accounts of his social life also varied, like everything else. He said some people say he chose to be alone, because as an adolescent, he was unable to understand interpersonal relationships. Um, he also claimed
So
to
was
have
it a
no
choice
natural.
or was he so awkward and weird and freaked everybody out to the point that nobody would approach him?
Right. So, and he also claimed he had quote unquote no natural sense of how to develop any kind of a friendship. I didn't know what made people want to be friends. I didn't know what underlying social interaction meant or how you did it. So, but then you would have classmates that were interviewed by Ann Rule from at Woodrow Wilson High School that said he was well known and well liked in and there in a medium sized, quote unquote, you know,
A
fish
medium-sized
pond.
fish in
Yeah,
a large pond.
in a large pond. Um, his only significant athletic ability is he was downhill skiing on stolen skates, and he used to forge lift tickets. This man is a smart. I mean, his IQ was 136, and who knows now with the changes to it. I mean, he's 136. He's a smart cookie.
Which also a lot of that goes back to, look at Kemper as well. Kemper was highly, highly intelligent and did not know how to interact with normal people.
Yep.
So, it honestly makes me wonder if it ties into the whole autism spectrum as well.
Which is,
Because
I
I've
mean,
known others that have had, homicidal tendencies and stuff that they never acted on. They admitted and said, "Hey, I need help for this because I'm having these
mm-hmm,
thoughts." But back at that time and stuff, that the idea of coming out and saying, "Hey, I need help because I'm having these thoughts," did not
you
exist.
no, and if you did, what happened? You got locked up in the loony bin.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying that based
Mm-hmm,
on their inability to interact socially on a natural level because they don't understand how to take and interact with people, but
mm-hmm,
also, the paranoia, the homicidal thoughts, this and that and stuff can be
mm-hmm.
related to the spectrum. So, it's an idea that probably wouldn't hurt to be
Looked at if
looked
they
at.
haven't already.
Yes, if they haven't already. I'm
So,
not saying all autistic people are going to be serial
oh, of
killers. I'm
course,
just saying the
of course,
possibility that these serial killers were.
yeah. Because especially when a lot of these serial killers, the big ones, are what they're born in the 40s and the 50s,
Yeah.
60s. That autism wasn't even like a thing that you uttered. So, um,
Actually, you
but
didn't
at
talk about
18,
any mental affliction, period. So,
exactly. I mean, women were locked away for hysteria, and it would be because they labeled it listeria, but because they read books and they knew things.
yeah.
Because God forbid that
They
happened.
they drank and knew things, and so they had to be locked
Exactly.
away. Oh god, these
So
people
at
are dangerous.
18, at 18, he has a run in with the law of burglary and motor vehicle theft. And
Well,
at
that was
the age
when
of 18,
before he turned 18, and then at 18 they
yes, and
expunged
then
it.
at 18 they were expunged from his record, I love this, which is a customary thing that Washington State does.
A lot of other states do it too.
Yeah,
Once you
yeah.
turn 18, no matter what you did as a teenager, well, prior till that day time, is locked away and expunged. It no longer
Mhm.
exists.
Lucky looks. So that's kind of like where we go from. This is where it gets interesting. You have his I call it the university years because why not?
Yeah.
The man did go do lots of things and go lots of places.
In the college years.
Yes, the college years. So 65, he attends the University of Puget Sound for 1 year before transferring to the University of Washington to study Chinese. 1967. I call this the pivotal moment. 1967, he becomes romantically involved with Diane Edwards. This is the only woman that later on Bundy said that the only woman he ever really loved.
Yep.
Um,
It was the
so,
first love. It was the first actual connection to a human
ever,
being that he's made that was not family.
yep, and probably reciprocated that love back to him because I don't think he really truly got any.
Yeah.
So, so we have that going
Well,
on. The
you know, the
next,
one person that tried, he distanced
yes,
himself from. So,
yeah. So now 1968 comes along. He drops out of college and just starts working minimum wage jobs. But this is where it gets interesting. So he volunteers at the Seattle office for Nelson Rockefeller. Yes, that family, everyone.
hooray, the Rockefellers.
Yes, the Rockefellers for his presidential campaign and became Arthur Fletcher's driver and bodyguard. Mr. Quiet Ted Bundy, a bodyguard? Interesting. I just always have that picture of him in that turtleneck, and it's just when I was like, "Oh, bodyguard," I'm like, okay. Um, so he ends up being his driver and his bodyguard for Fletcher during his lieutenant governor of Washington State. Now, his girlfriend Edwards graduates in spring of '68, left Washington to go to San Francisco.
She moved back home.
She moved back home. Guess what Bundy did? He visited her. He visited her
Colors.
a year after, and he then earned a scholarship to learn Chinese at Stanford University. So what have we done? I look at it as I can't live without her. I need to be with her. So he
I need to be
follows her.
close, so he follows.
I need to be close. Um, so this is something else. Like this is like the political part that he goes through in that momentary part of his life. He attends the '68 Republican National Convention in Miami. Shortly after that, Edwards ends their relationship and returned home to her family home in California, frustrated by what she described as Bundy's immaturity and lack of ambition. So this point in time, because I like how they they quoted it, this is probably the pivotal time in his development of what his next move is going to be and what he becomes. That's like the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Hi, Liz. Because he was devastated. Think about it. First love, probably first everything.
Yeah. And
You
they're in
know, and
Miami,
then,
and she breaks up with him and leaves.
yep, and leaves him high and dry to go back home and probably said, "You have nothing for me. You're not going to give me anything out."
However,
So,
the words that were used and stuff, as far as, she was frustrated by his immaturity and lack of ambition, it comes back around to what I mentioned earlier, that theory
mhm,
that I mentioned, which
yeah,
is, if people on the spectrum don't feel challenged enough, they don't try. So they don't seem like they have any ambition. And it's,
hmm,
and it's not because they don't want to do, it's because they don't feel that challenge that they need. This is too easy, so why should I even try?
hmm,
And
makes
Liz
total.
is phenomenal. Liz Miss Liz is out of Scotland. She's been a huge supporter of Parapost and everybody else. Which thank you, Parapost and Brian Larrabee, for letting me take in. Well, actually, he kind of told me, why isn't your show on Parapost? So every time I do a show, I share it over. That way I don't get yelled at in a chat message. Um,
Why are you not
yeah.
sharing it to us? Let's go.
Love you, dude. I can't wait to see what we do next with Global Ghost Hunt because that is coming up
Yes.
in October. And this year it is free for teams to join. So all you have to do is pay for your locations. Um, and
You
depending on how
can't
many we have, we are going to do it from anywhere from 2 weeks until to the entire month of October.
Ooh. Swinging for the fences.
Swinging for the fences. If we can get enough people, we will run all month long.
Sweet. I'm and I watch all the investigations. They are awesome. I love it.
The
It's a
teams we get
great
are phenomenal, and they
yeah.
are such awesome people. I appreciate them so much. They get to keep. I get to keep doing what I do with Global Ghost Hunt because of them, and for everyone that watches.
Hmm.
Just like I get to keep doing this for because of everybody that watches and
Yes.
anything else that I do. Which here very soon, Spirit Mechanics are going to start their lives back up. We start back up on the 26th. So mark that. In 13 days, we will be back up and live and talking about last year is where we're starting at. Um,
Cool
I know
stuff.
I'm diverting from conversation, but I can see this is going to turn into a two-part conversation about
Yeah.
Mr. Bundy. Um, Today, we'll just kind of break out to the point to where he's getting ready to start killing people, and then we'll circle back around to that next week.
Yes.
Yes, I said the K word. It is a
Yes.
word. It does happen. This is 18 plus for a reason. I forgot my
Hmm.
banner. Right? It is interesting. It's a good thing
Yes,
I
it
haven't
is.
really used a whole lot of bad language this week. Um, um, and the Scarefest announced their first guest for the year for October's Scarefest convention in
And
Lexington,
they're swinging
Kentucky.
for the fences again.
They are swinging for the fences. The very first guest they announced this past Friday, just days ago, is
Robert.
none other than Freddy Krueger himself, Robert England. So
Yes.
I forgot to throw some things in there earlier in the show. For some reason, I decided to wake up out all at once. With less than 20 minutes left. But anyway, back to Mr.
Anyway,
Bundy.
but back to Mr. Bundy, Bundy, Bundy.
Thank you for sharing
Thank you
out,
so
Mr.
much. So after his breakup with Edwards, because now we definitely know he's definitely got what? He's got a broken heart. You know damn well he has.
Oh yeah.
He traveled to Colorado and then further, he traveled to Colorado, but then he also came out this way, further east, visiting friends in visiting relatives in Arkansas and in Philadelphia. He also, so what does he do? He enrolls into what? Temple University for one semester. All right. And in this time period, he is frequenting New York City, which I'll just say it here. Debbie Harry says she was picked up by him walking home from CBGB's one night. And
Y'all.
she got into that car and realized, oop, there's no door handle. Freaked out. He's freaking out. She basically does the good thinking, good old New York girl, grab the outside of the door handle because these aren't door handles, of like today too. Unlocks the door and tucks and rolls out the car.
She sure
So
does.
Debbie Harry, Blondie, could have been a victim at one point while he's in New York City.
Which at this point, instead, he's very, very drawn to adult materials, especially
Yes.
those that involve violent adult makeup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and let's face it,
I mean,
a lot of it is probably circled around one from his interest when he was younger, but also
mm-hmm.
two because his entire world was just shattered.
Exactly.
So he has these dark thoughts in his head, and they start turning sexual.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I other people say it was earlier. Like I think he has a couple that are earlier, but he and what FBI considers his first um is about this time period
Yep.
also too.
Which also,
Um,
when he's up in that area, is
mhm.
what Enroll believes to be about the time that Bundy actually finds out about his true parentage, finds out
So
about
now,
his birth certificate.
yeah, finds out about his birth certificate. The girl that he absolutely loved is left. We're hanging on. Like at that point, I think we're hanging on by strands,
And then the go.
strands, and that's it.
See, there's something interesting about the behavior when it comes to serial killers. Is they're very meticulous. They're very detail drawn.
Mm-hmm.
They're very focused when they do their acts. They have everything worked out down to almost the timing. And in fact, some of them will tell you if the timing was off, they did not
Yep,
act. They did not do it.
exactly. Because it would throw off
It,
everything
it
that they're
threw off the
trying to
entire
do.
schedule.
That throws off their schedule, and it throws off their need and want at that time that they have to fulfill. That I guess you want to call bloodthirst. I guess. I mean, if that's what you want to call it.
But if it
Um,
throws off the schedule and it
mhm,
upsets them, it's going to tank that desire.
mhm,
And they had to wait for another time,
exactly.
which draws me right back to that whole idea.
Which I wholeheartedly believe. I mean, it is, and I'm wondering. Yeah, Debbie Harry. Yep, she
Yeah,
certainly was. She
she
certainly
sure
was
was.
because she
Blondie was
she
all.
then later on his pictures in the newspaper and she's going, "That's the dude that remember what I told about?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's the dude. That I'm 100% that is the dude that picked me up." So, um,
And yeah, I would apologize for my little insights and stuff there, but
no, it's
Renee
good.
can tell you as much as a lot of other people. I've studied this subject for years, not just
Mm-hmm.
necessarily individuals, but just the behavior. You know, I've had a couple people that told me that I should have been a profiler because I've studied the subject so much,
That's what I
and
want.
the profiling method because they
Mm-hmm.
focus on behavior.
Yep.
And if nobody's made that connection yet and stuff, I'm greatly surprised that the idea of how these people act and how OCD and meticulous about every part of
Mm-hmm.
their life is.
And Bundy was. I mean, when he would have those final interviews or those letter conversations back and forth with certain investigators, and they would ask, and he would say, "I did things this way, this way, this way, this way for a reason."
Yeah,
Why a lot of my victims, there's the one main scene, but there's always a secondary scene, and there's a reason why I did this, and this.
Yeah, because Bundy
You
had
know.
it set up. He picked them up here or here. He took them
Hmm.
here, and then he had a specific area where he dumped them.
Exactly.
And it didn't matter what state he was in, except for Florida when he had finally completely broken.
Snap. I think
And
he was just at wit's end at that point.
he had reached a certain point and stuff where he realized that things were closing in around him, and
Yep.
it brought a hurriedness and just even more anger into his system, which is why
Yep.
it caused such an, we'll say, unsophisticated
He
method to
well,
his last few murders.
well, he went back to his original, which was bonk over the head. He went back to his original MO.
Yeah, it went back. It went from being sophisticated to very sloppy.
Yep. Very sloppy.
And after the one house that he hit, he knew that that was
Oh,
it.
he knew he
He
was
was
done. He
basically
knew.
done. So
Yep.
he grabbed the only person that he could at that time that wasn't looking for him, and that was the one that got him caught.
Yep.
But we'll get to that later.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll get to that later because the interesting part in all of this, he is on his spree. We'll call this. He returns to Washington in the fall of '69, and he meets Elizabeth Culper, a single mother from Odin, Utah, who worked as the secretary at the University of Washington School of Medicine. Their relationship continued well past his initial
Incarceration.
separation in '78, Utah in '78.
Later, Mr.
Um,
Ellersburg.
yes. Uh, Now here's the kicker: Elizabeth had a daughter, and her name was Molly. He became her father figure because she was three. She was about 3 years old um, when they started dating, and he remained in her life until she was 10, and that was after he got arrested.
Yep.
So those that want to watch that on Netflix that came out during COVID, um,
Yes, that
that was
was
a, that was a
actually a
very
very good movie.
yes. Zach Efron is Teddy Boy. He did a really good job.
Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and
Yeah.
vile. It came out in
Yes.
2019.
Oh, 2019. Okay.
Yes.
So,
And
but
then
yes.
Hulu released one that was called Ted Bundy, the American Boogeyman, in which Ted
Mm-hmm.
Michael Murray played him, and that one
Mm-hmm.
was decently good as well. He also makes an appearance in the movie called The Capture of the Green River Killer in 2008,
Yep.
and
Yes, he
James
does.
Marsters played that part.
Yes. And those that don't know that's Spike
It
from
sure is.
Buffy. That's my boy.
But
Um,
so yeah, if you're wondering, he did actually help catch the Green River
yeah.
Killer.
At the end, at the end, he's he gets a stay of execution. He gets a stay of execution. He gets a stay of execution because he's trying to pull all these levers and pull this last straw. So I think that was like one of his last straws. Like, you got to keep me here because I can help you because I am that kind of person. So
Yeah,
you could benefit from me, but it doesn't stay for long, unfortunately. But we'll get to that too later.
yeah.
So,
Because it does appear that will come up next week. We are almost to our first hour, our
yep,
Bundy conversation. Because to finish that off, he re-enrolled into the University of Washington, you know, for a psych major, and
Mm-hmm.
was an honor student, well regarded by his professors. In 1971, he took a job at Seattle's Suicide Hotline Crisis Center,
Mm-hmm.
which is where he met and worked alongside a former police officer and aspiring crime writer named Anne Rule.
And she wrote an excellent book herself. That's actually one of the, like, I tell everybody, that's one of them. If you want
Yeah,
to read
if
it,
you want to
go read it.
learn
You want to
about
learn about
Bundy,
it?
go read The Stranger Beside Me.
Yes. And then here, and this is the one thing I will tell you, everybody, where everybody's names, depending upon whose book you're reading, everybody, all of his victims' names, they change. Um, his first girlfriend's name is changed also to a book. His, Elizabeth's name is changed in a book until she actually put a book out under a different name and then came out.
Yes.
And and
Yes, he did marry while he is in prison. We will get to that next week because
oh
we
yes,
don't
we
ruin
will.
all the fun this week.
Yes. And there's more fun in between. I mean, there's getaways and breakouts, and
Oh yeah,
obviously doesn't know which direction to where to go at one breakout. Which, I mean, if he realized what direction he was going, he probably would have got away.
actually, he probably would have.
Yep. So, but yeah, but in the meantime, but there, like we said, there's tons of stuff. There's interviews on YouTube with him. There's the final interview that he had. Um, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Because I mean, I will admit this. If I was a girl of that time period, and I came across him, and he gave me that sob story of, oh, I probably would have been one of his victims, because he was a good looking man. I'm sorry.
Uh,
He was,
uh, I would have died for it. I would have done it.
but then,
However,
then
it's bad whenever he starts strangling you. You go, chuck me harder, daddy. What the hell?
oh, yes. But and then years later, there's other reasons why that I've always been fascinated with him, and then to find out later down the pipe the reason why. So,
I mean, I've just been fascinated with all of them in general. It
mhm.
started out with the psychology of how the mind worked, and di- diverged into the behavior because you know that was the cool thing about the FBI profiling system and how they set it up is it's based more on behavior instead of actual psychology.
Yep.
Because in behavior there's certain tells,
Mhm.
and they can
Certain
pin it down to the type of car you drive, the type of um
type of tires you put on your car and for what reason you put it on.
yeah,
It's
the type of
stuff.
shoes you buy.
Yep.
Jerry Brudos had a huge foot fetish and had so many women's
Huge.
shoes. It was not
And
funny.
they knew, down to the point where they brought the shoes in to him, and he explained to them the reason why it was this shoe,
Yes.
and that they should be looking for things of this reason why this shoe. Just
Yep.
saying.
And we'll get to Jerry eventually. Maybe
Yeah.
after Ted. Maybe after Ted. We'll start the year off with a bang with some big names and stuff before we
Yeah.
get back into the people that others don't really know as much. So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
which way we go.
Lewis said right. He wasn't right doing all the killings, yes, but he was, and for those days, yes, he was. Yes, he
Yes.
was. I mean, that was the other problem with his look, and the reason why it took so long, because The man was a chameleon. All he had to do was shift his hair a different way, and he looked totally different.
Yeah,
He had put a turtleneck on. He put glasses on, and he just
and
his
he drove such a regular car for the time because
yep,
Volkswagen Beetles were everywhere. He chose such a bland color that nobody could remember which color it was.
yep. Is it tan? Is it brown? Is it a pale white? Like there was yeah.
Yeah.
So
And as we get right to end the night, do not forget to take the time to look at our post from January 1st. I need to repost it for him. The author who is kind enough to send in information about his books, his name is Maxim Furyk. I hope I did
mm-hmm.
not butcher that because he was kind enough to send some information about his books. He writes about UFOs, Bigfoot, you know, subjects that we love so very, very much.
Yes.
And
Yes.
play, he's a very interesting individual. So please take the time to take and at least check
Mm-hmm.
out the excerpts from those books online. You can find them at Amazon or anywhere else that they sell books. The link is up for the Tribe's Bigfoot books on the Raven Hollow Productions page. And do you have anything to add, Miss Renee?
Mm-hmm. Not this. Not actually. Wait. Yes. Go listen to a certain song that I have attached. It's a. It's definitely a bop, as the kids would say.
A bop. Well, that finishes us up for part one of the discussion about Ted Bundy. We will be back
Mm-hmm.
next week, hopefully, with part two. And until then, have an awesome week. I hope to see some of you all Friday as I'm back on the mental health by the mentally disturbed. Hopefully, Matt Barron will be back with us. If not, I understand life gets hectic, life gets crazy, but we're all a
Yep.
little crazy in our own way.
Exactly.
So until then, until next week, this